Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another bonus episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD, and who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
What the fuck was that? Michelle, what happened to your voice?
I have laryngitis.
Oh, God. Oh, we're so clever and funny. Guys, so Michelle is here with me, as
It's
usual.
me. Hi. It's always me.
For the first time in We Watch Shudder history, we actually have a bonus guest host here. Who is that other voice that claimed to be Michelle? What's your name?
This is Kevin.
That's Kevin. That's my buddy Kevin.
It's not always Kevin.
It's not always
it's
Kevin.
Sometimes Kevin.
It's one time right now, Kevin. Those of you listening who happen to maybe know me a little bit for the last decade or so of my life will know Kevin as the man responsible for the Eat the Cat phenomenon. Those of you who don't know anything about me or who I am will have no idea what that means, but trust me, it's fucking hilarious. Kevin has been a friend of mine for a while. He's been listening to the podcast, and we talk about movies and shit all the time. And so I invited him to come on and talk about this movie. Kevin, what's the movie we're talking about tonight?
So today we're talking about, or tonight, we're talking about The Seed.
The Seed. Of course, as you guys know, we've been going back and picking up the last few titles from early in 2022 that we didn't do episodes for because we hadn't had a show yet. And this is the last one. Guys, we got this one, and then we got one more new one coming up on Friday, and then the year's done. Michelle, how excited are you that we have a full year of Shudder movies under our belts, pretty much?
I am more exhausted than excited, but I am very proud that we did not give up immediately like we both thought we would.
Right on. So, Kevin, before we get into this a little bit here, let's get to know you just a little bit. Let me put you on the spot here. Tell me your top 3 horror movies of all time.
Oh, wow. That's not something I considered before I came here to talk about The Seed.
That's why it's called putting you on the spot.
So probably my top all-time would be The Thing.
My man. All right.
A very
the original or the remake?
Oh, I mean, because there was
the remake of the remake.
Yeah,
you mean John Carpenter's The Thing?
The middle.
Yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is just an incredible film, absolute classic. It contains a lot of Lovecraftian elements, which is part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this film.
Ooh, we're going to talk about some of that, yeah.
And probably second would be Alien.
Okay. My man
The
likes
original
some
or the
creatures.
remake?
Oh,
Yeah,
fuck you, Michelle.
John Carpenter's Alien?
John Carpenter's Alien.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, I kind of want that movie now. Holy shit.
And then finally, I'm gonna kind of go outside of the accepted norm of going to classics, and I'm gonna say that since we're talking about Lovecraft stuff, The Color Out of Space is arguably the best.
The original or the remake?
Yeah.
John Carpenter's Color Out of Space?
Yeah, exactly.
That is one of the few movies that has gotten a 5 from both of us. That is an amazing movie. There's very few in that pantheon, and that is one of them.
Since we're going to be talking about some Lovecraft stuff on this episode, I just got to say that is hands down the best direct adaptation of a Lovecraft work that's ever been made.
I completely agree with you. I'm pretty sure I've seen every directly adapted from or loosely inspired by H.P. Lovecraft movie ever made, and I agree. That movie is so fucking great.
Yeah, same.
But
some good squelches, too. I know that for a fact now. I had to go and screenshot those.
Squelches so much. It's
some
a purple
good
movie,
screenshots.
too. It's a purple.
It's very purple, yeah.
The Seed is a somewhat purple movie. Somewhat.
It's got a little bit of the purple in it, but I don't. It's not as much as some other recent films, including some ones that you guys have talked about. That
Oh,
are
for
on
sure.
Shudder, that have definitely adopted that color as a sort of
purple.
signifier for some weird Lovecraftian alien shit.
Yeah,
right?
and with maybe like a mildly to significantly kind of psychosexual vibe going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, a purple movie
or at
is-
least kind of like madness induced from without by
Right.
some kind of cosmic entity or whatever.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So, Michelle, we're talking about The Seed. I actually took a moment here and scanned quickly through the description from the Shudder website, and I feel like it's perfectly acceptable for us to read this one to the folks. Do you have it there in front of them? In front of you? Do you want to share it with these good people?
Of course I have it in front of me. I'm
Yes.
always prepared. Okay, so The Seed, directed by Sam Walker, 2022. English, 91 minutes, not rated. 3 young influencers head to the California wilderness to party and film a once-in-a-lifetime meteor shower for their social media channels. What starts as a weekend away in a remote luxury villa turns into a psychedelic tale of horror, death, and alien invasion. A Shudder original.
All right.
Kevin, do you want to give us your non-spoilery thoughts on this movie?
Yeah. So, I mean, insofar as I've already said that we're going to talk about some Lovecraft stuff in this, but I hope that's not too much of a spoiler.
No, not
It's I would say a laudable first effort by a first-time writer-director with a low budget making his first horror film. It has a lot of elements about this type of horror movie that I like. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. And there are some things that I'm going to talk about later that I actually really, really enjoyed. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 skulls.
3 out of 5 from Kevin with the spoiler. Man, you nailed the spoiler-free element of this whole thing. Well done. That was first time, and he's already a podcast expert, everybody. Michelle, you want to go next? Tell us your spoiler-free
Sure.
thoughts on The Seed.
My spoiler-free thoughts. I remember really disliking this one the first time I watched it. I still do, but now I think it's for the right reasons. 4 skulls.
You dislike it, but for the... Okay, that's awesome. I'm really curious to see where that's going. Hey, you guys want my spoiler-free thoughts?
5.
Let's hear it.
All right,
It's a
my
5.
spoiler-free thoughts are, after listening to Kevin's spoiler-free thoughts, I don't even know why the fuck I'm here. He pretty much said exactly the same thing I felt about this movie, except I maybe liked it just a little bit more. I was going to come down on a 3.5. So we got a 3, a 3.5, and a 4, which I'm pretty sure means our average is a 3.5.
Yeah, I'm doing the math. Oh, hang on. My calculator broke.
10.7
10.7 or 10.5 divided by
Michelle,
3.
Michelle, why do you
It's
need...
3.5.
Michelle,
It's 3.5.
tell me you didn't actually have to do that math to know the average was going to be 3.5.
I kind of figured, but then I panicked, so I had to go make sure. I just I went, oh, that'll be 3.5. But then I started thinking about it, and we have this configured so it already adds our score
Well,
together, and
yeah.
that said 3.75, and then we had the new one, and then I panicked. I panicked.
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
It's fine. Well,
I'm like
look,
a squid. I inked and I flew off into the darkness.
It's not nearly the hilarious blunder that Rue Morgou was. So,
God.
Kevin, have you gotten to the episode that involves Rue Morgou yet?
I have not. So
Man.
I try to limit my listening to your podcast, of which
To the
I
ones
am
you've
of-
seen.
Of,
Sure.
of a fan is the ones I watch, and
Gotcha.
then I listen to get you guys' take and kind of
Right on.
compare and
Just-
contrast how I feel about
Well,
the thing.
Listen to
short
the first 10 minutes of Woodland
Yeah,
Stark and Days Bewitched. Because
for which one
oh
was it? For
God,
which movie was it
Woodlands
for?
Dark and Days Bewitched, or
Yes.
Dark Days and Woodlands Gone,
Yes,
or
yeah.
Woodlands and Woodlands
when-
Bewitched.
when Michelle reads the description of the movie early on in the episode, it's one of the most incredible moments of my entire life. I had
One
such
of the most embarrassing moments
Oh,
of my life.
It was beautiful. It was just beautiful.
God.
Anyway, so yeah, 3.5 skulls is the 3-way average rating on the Seed. If you guys want to check this movie out before we really rip it apart and talk about all the spoilery details, you're going to want to go do that right about meow. All right, so Kevin, you're the guest here. Why don't you start out telling us just a little bit about... well, actually, let's... I get ahead of myself. We've been trying to do this thing because we have some people who listen who don't even really care about watching the movies. For some reason, they find us entertaining. I still don't understand it after all this time. Michelle, you want to do like a quick breakdown of what happens in this movie? Can you even summarize what happens in this movie?
I absolutely can.
I don't know if I can, so I'm glad you're doing it.
So 3 girls who seem like they were friends in high school, and now 2 of them are still friends, and the third one's not really a friend, and one of them probably sells LuLaRoe, and the other one is a social media influencer who you don't really like, but you have to like because she has so many people who follow her on Instagram, and you gotta get that sweet, sweet following and that clout. They decide to go to a Dun Villa, and see a meteor shower, and they're all just hanging out, and they're getting drunk, and then shit gets wacky. And since we're in the spoiler section, we can say that a kind of meteor thing falls from the sky, and then the meteor thing hatches, and now there's like an armadillo from space.
It's one of the fucking most incredible, awesome, absurd, ridiculous creature designs I've ever seen. Kevin, tell us about this creature design.
It's an armadillo.
So I question whether or not you've seen an armadillo before, because that's not that's not what armadillos look like.
I don't know. I haven't been to the South. Maybe that's what they look like.
They look like they kind of look like armored rats.
So armored dillos. Got it.
Yeah. But no, this film posited an idea that I think is unprecedented in the history of Lovecraftian cinema, which is, what if the color out of space was a really cute gummy bear?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
it looks so much like... I saw that thing and I was like, oh my god, it looks so much like random animal fetus from this picture from a science book. It was
I got
awesome.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vibes from it. When they're the baby turtles in the sewer. Cowabunga. Yeah, I got that vibe from them. I was like, I'd take one home.
So
I would absolutely.
It was also fucking disgusting.
and if we're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he looks like a baby version of the like weird mutant turtle in the end of the second movie.
Yep, I totally got that. I was trying to remember its name and I couldn't, and then I didn't Google in time, but that's what my notes say. Thing looks like TMNT at the end.
Yeah. It's like, I prefer to think of him as just a cute little gummy bear. I think he's just precious.
Right.
And I thought it was absolutely hilarious that they made this the monster. And I kept thinking, okay, so this monster is going to mutate into something like really terrifying and huge, and it's going to go around and it's going to stomp these basic bitches into the ground, right?
Nope.
And no, it stays exactly the same form the entire time.
It's
just
cute
like
little splattery bear baby.
Yeah, a cute little bear baby that ends up being a really kind of sort of gross, inky, Lovecraftian monster with some weird body horror shit.
Yeah, so basically this alien creature shows up and they're trying to figure out what the hell it is, and it looks like a cute little baby bear animal. Apparently stinks to high hell. And it's slowly but surely, through some sort of psychic ability or whatever, kind of invades and takes over their minds. And look, I just got to jump right to this bit. I like Lovecraftian stuff, much like Kevin does. I've got a thing for monsters with tentacles. This movie did something that I have never seen before, and it was like a combination of disgusting but also wild and hilarious. This weird gummy bear creature, it doesn't end up having weird tentacles that come out of it. It basically like fucking discharges this gigantic like alien placenta mass that just like completely enshrouds people and apparently renders them completely stricken with sexual ecstasy. It's just the most. I mean, it's gross, but in just a hilarious, absurd, what the fuck kind of way. This thing was.
I mean, it's not the worst thing that can happen from a Tinder date, guaranteed. If the worst thing is you get covered in a placenta, you're fine. There's
no
way
doubt.
worse.
No doubt. Oh God. Kevin, tell us a little bit more about this movie, things you loved about it. I know you said in your spoilery thoughts that there were some specific things that you really, really, really loved. Tell us a little bit more about some of that.
I like where basically what you just described. The first scene, which is just shy of an hour into the film, which is about 2/3 of the way through it, is where it starts getting real weird. And that's where it turns into this this kind of, like you said, this little cute gummy bear guy is sitting there with this just sort of massive flesh splayed out from him with these women entwined in it in kind of orgiastic ecstasy. And it really reminded me of actually a film that JD and I watched over Halloween, Society.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it definitely.
No. Yep. I see it.
It gave me Society vibes.
For
I mean,
sure.
it was.
Right. We live in a society, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
I would rather not. Ugh.
Yeah, I think we actually made the comment when we watched that why has someone not made that meme yet?
Right. We
I'll
live
go
in a
make it.
society.
Yeah.
I'm
But,
making a note. I'm doing it.
yeah, but this is like a I would say it's relative to that, except that it's just it's literally, this whole film is, there's only 5 people in it, and it's really just 3 actresses. And the way that their characters are, basically, when JD told me to watch this film, I turned it on and I did what I normally would do with most of the Shudder originals I watch, which was I'd watch about 15 minutes and turn it off. But then
Shudder, if you're listening, we do not endorse that comment.
Yeah.
Please
Oh,
pay us
we
money.
absolutely endorse that comment. Honesty for everything.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm
We do endorse
sorry.
that comment. We endorse honesty.
yeah, there's
If that's what's in your heart.
there's a lot of good stuff on Shudder. There's also a lot of just stuff that just doesn't. And I mean, it doesn't really appeal to
Also,
me
sometimes
personally,
Craig
right?
Engler, CEO of Shudder, spoils their movies on the day they release them on Twitter. So,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
Something
and so,
JD is not still
I'll
bitter
never
about.
get over that. I cannot believe. Anyway,
Yeah.
tangent.
But
I'm sorry.
But that
continue.
actually sort of dovetails into my sort of assessment of the characters of this film, which is part of the reason that I would have turned it off had it not been recommended to me by JD, which is basically like you have Deidre, who is played by Lucy Martin, who is just as far as she's like a very basic influencer kind of social media star celebrity type person who I just find absolutely repellent, and it's clear that her character is designed to be that way, right?
Yeah, and gives you, I thought, real significant, like they don't tell you a lot about their background and where they're from and everything, but it was very much like that big fish, small pond kind of vibes, right? Like she's got a lot of ego because she comes from a place where she just happens to stand out because there's not necessarily a lot of people there.
Yeah, and then,
You're
and
describing
then
me. Proceed.
And then there's Heather, who's played by, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, Sophie Vavasseur, who is kind of like the sort of secondary personality to Deidre's explosive kind of take over everything social media influencer personality.
Right.
And then we're introduced to Charlotte, also called Charlie, usually through the show, played by Chelsea Edge, who is she doesn't use social media and reads books, which means that she's pretty cool.
It's
and
the
she's brunette.
yeah, well,
so-
it's the postmodern equivalent of, oh, she wears glasses. She's just a normal girl.
Yeah, yeah. It's very much that, and
Yeah.
and so when you're presented with these characters, and you kind of realize, because the people who are going to be watching this are people like us, and not
Yep.
people like Deidre in real life.
For sure.
I felt a bit insulted that it was so obvious who's going to be our hero and who are going to be the villains, right? but
the
halfway
hot
through
people
this,
are the evil ones. What? Go figure.
yeah, but halfway through this movie, where it turns weird, like suddenly Deidre becomes the standout character, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I have to say that Lucy Martin does an incredible job of portraying a person who is being sort of, like, influenced by some malevolent cosmic entity from without to be turned into an absolute maniac.
Yeah, yeah.
But that being said, Sophie Vavasseur and her portrayal of Heather, she does the thing that grossed me out more than anything else in this entire movie.
eggs.
The fucking eggs. Holy shit.
How do we explain the eggs to people who do not know what the eggs are?
Just tell them it's the spoiler section.
So
Eating
yeah,
eggs.
I mean, she literally, for this scene, as far as I can tell, is she had a tray of eggs next to her, and she picked up these raw eggs and ate them.
Yeah.
Just like stuck them in her mouth and chewed on the shells and sucked down the. That was so. All the weird, slimy body horror stuff. Like I was kind of like, oh man, I didn't expect that. That's pretty
Right.
wild for a movie like this. I didn't
But
see that coming.
you can realistically imagine the disgustingness of biting into a raw egg.
And she sat there and ate like half a tray of them. It's so gross.
What got me is
You
that
gotta
this
respect
is
the commitment.
this is clearly on a hot summer day, and that just makes it so much worse. Like, you imagine summer, especially like if there's no
Yeah.
air conditioning and you have to eat a tray of raw eggs.
Yeah.
Something
And-
about the heat of that makes it so much worse. Like the starkness of the cold coming straight from the fridge on a hot day, and you're like, this will be nice and refreshing.
Yeah.
No, it will not.
We're
mean-
out
Oh
of
my
Kool-Aid.
God.
and even though this film is based in California, which they don't ever really tell you, except for the fact that the only vehicle in the entire movie that has a plate on it is that four-wheeler they're driving around.
Yeah.
Plus, we can
And
see
they
Deidre. She looks
they
like she's from
slap-
California.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they all look like they're from California, right?
Well,
but
see?
they slapped those California plates on the four-wheeler to let you know it's there, because this movie is filmed in Malta.
In Malta, they shot
Yeah.
it in Malta. Apparently, it was another one similar to Host that was kind of completely conceived and produced through various opportunities within like the pandemic, the real height of it. So that's why there's only like the 5 people in it, and they're in these
Yeah.
very isolated places. I guess Malta was a place that they found where they were allowed to be able to go and do it.
Well,
But
no, there were fights. So places like Malta, there's a lot of countries that do this. South Africa is a big one where a lot of sort of mid to somewhat high budget films get filmed. Is because they give them financial and tax incentives to film there. Right?
I gotcha.
So I would imagine that a decent portion of the filming budget of this movie was actually either provided by or was written off by the Maltese government.
I gotcha. Kevin,
which,
just a side
do
note,
it.
my man Kevin lives in Washington, D.C. and works in all sorts of international sort of... What do you do, Kevin?
He can't tell you. That's top secret and
Yeah,
classified.
that's right. If I'd have to kill you both.
Well, that's fair. Well, that's who Kevin is. So the only reason I bring it up is whenever I have questions about like, hey, what's really fucking going on with this situation in the world, Kevin's my guy I call.
Yeah. And
Like,
then I usually
I'm
just
kind of a dummy, Kevin. Break down Ukraine for me. That's the kind of questions I ask him. Anyway.
I'll have to tell you my story about how I had to talk to an FBI secret agent once, and I couldn't take him seriously. I kept asking if he'd tell me the truth about the Men in Black and if I could get recruited for them. And he kept laughing it off and trying to talk about the serious issue. And I went, no, I need to know about the aliens. He's like, ha ha ha. Anyway, what do you know about this bomb threat? And I was like,
that is absolutely the position you should take anytime you have to talk to the FBI.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
nobody should ever talk to the FBI
nope.
under any circumstances.
It was about a different guy, so he was like, come on, just tell me what you know. And I was like, you tell me what you know about the aliens. We can exchange information. You go first.
I love that I've completely derailed the horror movie podcast into a discussion about the FBI. But
well, we're talking about aliens.
Yeah,
I wanted to know if the gummy bear from the seed was real. And you wouldn't tell me. Tell me the truth, Richard.
What an asshole.
So,
I do have one other thing to talk about
with
the characters, because with the exception of the three that I mentioned, there's only two other characters, which is
Brett,
which is the hunter rancher guy that gets killed at the end almost immediately, and Brett, who is a hero of the working class. And
what is his accent? What is that supposed to be?
That accent is not an accent that exists in any English-speaking community in the entire world.
I was like, I don't know this accent at all. Is there another state I'm not aware of? Because I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know where this dude is from. I did not actually look up his name, the name of this actor. I just looked up the name of the three main characters. But he was trying to do an affectation of some sort of Southern accent. It sounded kind of similar to a sort of Louisiana kind of Cajun accent.
It sounded like he was trying to do that, but like with like while he was also like chewing a mouthful of cud or something.
Yeah, whatever the fuck it is he was doing, he was not doing a good job of it. But,
I thought he did a great job of it. I'm on the opposite. I don't know where Brett is from. I have questions about his character. Is he from space? I wouldn't even be surprised if he came along with that meteor shower and that gummy bear is his uncle he was sent out to find.
He is just a working class man.
I love him.
He sees things exactly how they are, and he gets out of it what he needs, and then he fucks off the second that he gets all their money.
It's like, I'm done. All right, I'm out of here. What I also love, just a little detail in here, is you do mention the sort of cowboy fella. I love that he's the guy who she sees on Tinder earlier in the movie, right? She's like, there's only one other person even around here. And then that dude shows up. I thought that was a great little touch of detail. That was so awesome.
Yeah. That was also, so I even marked it down, which I don't know if you guys, we've kind of explained like what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But, basically, like, I made a list of, like, the Lovecraftian elements that I noticed in this film, and sort of in the in the order that I saw them. And so, if you would,
hey, drop them on us. Drop them on us, man.
I will read them to you now. So the first and foremost is kind of like the big one, which is like there's a malevolent or, at best, like not beneficent cosmic entity that has arrived from, unknown reaches of space. The second thing that really jumped out to me is when they go to the cabin of the lady, like the neighbor lady that lives down the way, and they find her notes. And it turns out that she is like some sort of scientist or investigator of some sort who has been looking into this same cosmic entity and has some insight into it. And their notes are, kind of like a sort of narrative structural element that gives them some purchase as to like, what this thing. That it's a thing they should be concerned about,
from the basement in Evil Dead, that whole
precisely. It is literally the basis of almost every Lovecraft story, right? It's like you're either reading someone's notes or you're reading someone who's talking about having met with the person who investigated it and was driven to madness or whatever. Speaking of which, so the next thing that really happens to them is sort of madness or sort of physical or psychological changes that are induced by the otherworldly element, so that they start acting really weird, and then and you see this before we even get to the point where they're kind of like really showing the weird body horror,
right?
Like
we
bear
feel the
thing
influence early for sure.
Yeah. And then once they finally get into the body horror stuff, and then eventually they have the confrontation where they're standing outside the pool, and suddenly they're both prego and bleeding oil from the eyes and just looking all just real gross, right?
Yep.
And alien miscegenation, which is like a very like common Lovecraftian trope, which also gets back into his kind of fear of everything and the other, and being kind of a racist asshole piece of shit. But
yeah, he's certainly not without his problems. That HP.
But one thing that you did mention earlier, which I did note, is that there are only 2 places in this entire film where they show tentacles, and it's one time when when Charlotte goes in to like see the entity sitting in the bed after they've kind of like mated with it or whatever,
and he's kind of somehow laying there, giving off just like a stud Hugh Hefner vibe.
He's giving off these chill dude vibes, right? And she has some kind of like it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if she actually does what is in it, or if it's some kind of like vision in her head, but she like starts to kind of like go and try to mate or whatever with the thing, like the other 2 characters did, but then she like stops herself and runs away, and there's like little tentacle things that come up around her there. And then the end, Deirdre is actually like morphing into some weird tentacle monster right before she gets her head blown off, and then it has a pretty dope ending.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like that's pure Lovecraft, right? Just that incredible.
And then we realized, this was just the first one, and now the rest of them are coming down.
This thing was like, this is like this is the Predator, right? Like this is the evil alien creature. Now, man, this is like taste number 1, and shit, it's just starting. You think you've won the day, and you're fucking doomed.
Yeah, you just killed your best friend, but the Earth is still ending. So have a nice day.
Yeah. Oh God.
I do have to say that I hate when bad things happen to people. I think I'm legally obligated to say that before I say this next part. Sucks when bad things happen to people. But if bad things are going to happen to people, isn't it nice when, like, the bad people are hot? Because at least, like, up until this point, they've had their entire lives to experience what it's like to be a 10 out of a 10. And if this is going to happen to somebody, at least it happened to Deidre. Like, she lived a good life. Yeah. If it had happened to Charlotte, who's a brunette, I mean, she's just reading books. It would have been sadder.
I guess the way I would look at it is more of, I mean, if this had to happen to somebody, I'm glad it happened to a bitch like Deirdre.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her, Deidre.
I gotta say, she was crafted to be an absolutely repellent human being.
Oh yeah,
and then you just love her.
Incredible job.
She did. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did an absolutely incredible job. And when she starts turning into a real, like, sort of alien-affected maniac, that was also an incredible job.
Yeah,
and that was the point of this movie where I was like, oh, wait a second. I hate her because she's a really good actress, not just because she's like the hot girl.
Right. I think that's one element of certain types of horror movies that, unless you've spent a lot of time with it, you haven't developed the sense for. But, like, I get why a lot of people look at a lot of horror movies and just think it's absurd and ridiculous, because, like, that's a performance that could have gone badly in so many ways, right? It's so much more subtle to do it well than I think a lot of casual people would ever understand. But, like, that performance could have been so ridiculous. It's really pitch perfect. Like, she commits, like, she definitely goes there, but she stops right before it gets to be ridiculous. I thought it was fantastic.
No, it's very well done.
Her
And,
losing
you
her
know,
mind in the pool is like my favorite scene from
Yes.
this. There's a lot of stuff in this that is good. The pool happens simultaneously with the egg scene, but I don't know.
Yeah,
There's just
yeah.
something about that, and I think it's because I have bipolar disorder, and the way that she's standing in a pool losing her mind is how I feel when I'm manic. So I was just like, this is it. This is the visual representation of just like losing your mind, but being solitary in a very chill environment. I really love that. And then you just go inside and you eat some cold eggs on a hot day.
Michelle,
well, you know,
I
gotta have something to cool you down from that Maltese.
Exactly.
I did want to ask you, Michelle, in the spoiler-free section, you kind of implied that this movie didn't really work for you, but that's why you think it's good. Get into that for me a little bit.
It's more that I don't like the Lovecraftian stuff usually. I'm not
Right.
like, we've talked about this, I'm not a body horror person.
Right.
So usually when I watch something, it goes so far that I'm so disgusted I don't like it. The first like half of this movie is so garishly bright before anything supernatural happens that it's nauseating to look at normal scenes before anything has happened, because it is so like such a heavy contrast and so
Yeah.
saturated.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't like it the first time. It did not rope me in, and then it started getting gross, and I was like, I don't like gross stuff. I'm sorry. So I just kind of half watched the first time I watched it.
Okay.
Rewatched it for the podcast and went, this is still way too fucking pink. But then as I've kind of grown to like different aspects and appreciate them. So I started going like, okay, this egg scene, I see what they were going for now. This placenta that just impregnated. Okay, I get it. Like I'm starting to appreciate things a little bit more, and it still heavily grossed me out, but now I kind of liked it. The very like hot pink bikini that then becomes covered in this dark black goo is such a good change from the beginning of this, where it's just garish colors, and now it's garish colors but with all this black liquid, and I think that's why they oversaturated it, and it made me just feel grossed out the first time I watched it, and I did not like it.
It also the oversaturation comports with the characters they're portraying, and like the sort of the Instagram filter kind of way that their whole lives are being portrayed.
Yeah, that grass is so green, and the skies are so blue.
Also, though, when like I do like what you mentioned there, that then when we really get into the thick of the shit towards the end, like that black goo like resonates so much harder against that saturated high contrast color. And I personally feel like there's not you get a lot of like blood and like green stuff. I feel there's not enough black goo in movies, and I was really appreciative of how much black goo there was in the scene. I really appreciated that.
You need to go watch that French movie where she falls in love with an amusement park ride then.
Wait, you're not talking about Titan, are you?
No, not Titan. She falls in love with a traveling amusement park ride. And you keep wondering the whole movie, are they going to have sex?
Wait, there's another movie besides Titan?
Titan is where she gets pregnant by a car or something.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
No.
fucks a car, yeah.
This is where she goes to an amusement park.
I just spoiled that movie. I'm so sorry.
That's the first minute.
No.
That happens in the first minute.
Yeah, that's
of that
really
movie.
the whole point of the
But no, this other one, I think it's called Jumbo. I'm pretty sure it's called Jumbo. She goes to an amusement park. She falls in love with an amusement park ride.
What?
I don't accept that this exists. I'm sorry.
It's called Jumbo.
There can't be two French movies about
Nope,
this.
they came out, or at least I watched them around the same time. It was Titan and it was Jumbo. That's what it is. And it's one of those, like, she falls in love with the amusement park ride. Nobody understands her, but she loves him. They have a way to communicate together.
Here's what
And
I
I
have
went
to
into
say-
it. I just went,
here's
I
what
want to
have
see these two
say
have
about
sex.
This, Michelle, is I absolutely hate that you just told me this, because now I have to watch it.
I'm already looking up what it's streaming on
my
for you. It's called
God.
Jumbo. I finally remembered. You're
I'd
going to
say-
love it.
I'd say I have to watch it, but I have a lot of
I'll
other
watch
things
it
I have to
first
do
and let
too,
you
so.
know if it's worth your time.
It's from 2020 and it's streaming on Tubi. And you know how much Tubi makes really good horror.
Yeah. So one final note that I will
Yes,
say
sir.
that I noticed about this film that we were originally talking about, The Seed, was that IMDb says this film has an estimated budget of $4 million, which is
What?
which is they definitely added a zero onto that number. Like, yeah,
There's no way this was a six-figure movie.
yeah, no, I think $400,000 is probably more realistic.
Now I'm just reading the "Did you know" section, and they're like, "Oh, meteors burn up when they enter the atmosphere."
And they all go the same direction.
Oh my god!
I love this.
Anyways,
God.
but
Oh.
you know what? This movie, it's pretty good. For
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, it's worth seeing. I don't mind. I don't
yeah.
even mind that I saw it twice. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's a good time. It's definitely what it really does is you mentioned this early on, Kevin, is a really solid effort for a first time writer director, and what it really does is make me really excited to see what Sam Walker does next.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a laudable first effort. I think that, as we discussed, it has a lot of elements to it that make it a sort of compelling watch, even though it may not be the best movie ever.
Right.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
I'd say go watch it.
For sure.
It's-
Michelle?
it's-
Sam Walker's first thing, according to IMDb, is a short from 2001 called Duck Children. So I'm going to be watching that once we're done recording.
Duck Children?
Duck Children. I don't want to know anything else about the other thing he's known for is Bite Horse from 2013. I will be watching both of those and reporting back.
That Duck Children is, man, that's...
Duck
there's
Children, Bite Horse.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's... yep, there it is. Duck Children, right there in front of my very eyes. I
My
didn't
final
believe you,
thoughts are
Michelle.
go
I'm
watch
sorry.
Jumbo. If you want to know if they have sex, you're going to have to watch it.
Oh, well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here as a first-time guest on We Watch Shudder. We always talked about possibly doing this, and I'm glad that you got to be a part of it. We may drag you back over here one of these days to do this again sometime.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been great, guys, and until then, I'll be trying to keep up with you guys and watching and listening to your views on the various Shudder movies
Right
as they
on.
be coming out.
For sure. And guys, make sure you check us out. We're on all the different not all of them. We're on 4 social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. All of
Grindr,
those are-
Tinder, Bumble.
They're all at We Watch Shudder is where you'll find us. We got a website called WeWatchShudder.com. We just launched a blog where we're talking about we got our first blog post up there about a not Shudder movie, Adult Swim Yule Log, a.k.a. The Fireplace. Have you heard about Adult Swim Yule Log? Well, if you haven't, I strongly suggest you see it before you go read our blog post because, oh, man, is it spoilery, and, oh, man, should you really see Adult Swim Yule Log. But that's any final thoughts, Michelle?
Mm-mm.
I got a final thought here. Let's see if this works the way I expect it to. Say goodnight, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin.
Say goodnight, Michelle.
Oh, I was going to say goodnight, Kevin.
Oh,
so
God.
You stole my thing, and I didn't know it was coming back to me. Anyway, bye. Have a good night. Good night, Michelle.
Bye,
Say
everyone.
goodnight, JD. Good night, JD.